Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining another Steftalks webinar. Today, we will be talking about After the Hype, Smart Manufacturing and the Urgency for Remote Capabilities. Today, we have two great speakers from Stefanini, Leo and Shrams. If you have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and drop them in your question box, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. We are recording today's session. So later today, you will receive an email from us with the link to the recording and some key takeaways that we want you to remember from the webinar. Let's get started, Leo and Shrams.
Thank you, Emmy. So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this good conversation. So I'm Leo Vieira. I'm Digital Industry Director for Stefanini Americas. So Shrams.
Thanks, Leo. Welcome, everyone. I'm Shrams Jain. I have been with Stefanini for about 2.5 years, and I'm leading the IoT and data science practice here in North America. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Shrams, I brought three subjects for us to exercise a little bit, right? So we would like to talk about, first of all, the use of magnifying glass, right? The second one, we'd like to talk about the chain weakest link, and then one of my favorites, I would like to talk a little bit about Idleman's Suite Up platform, right? So that's really a good story to go over. So let's take a magnifying glass. So I don't have any intention here to make a theoretical or any formal revision on what Industry 4.0 is, right? But if we take the magnifying glass and go to every single industry revolution we had, we'll see that a series of events or a series of things happen to really understand that as a revolution, right? So and that's happening with us right now with the Industry 4.0, right? So that is nothing, kind of a single event or something that just transformed the industry. It is like a transition, is like a series of events, right? Shrams, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree. In the Industry 4.0 journey, we have seen from 1.0 to 4.0, and now people are already talking about Industry 5.0, right? The biggest jump, I think, in my opinion, really happened from 3.0 to 4.0 from the 60s to 70s to 80s, right? The biggest challenge now, I think everybody is looking at is, how do we do this biggest jump now from 4.0 with the data that is being collected, right? That's the emphasis now.
Yeah, and for us, for the professionals that work in this area, right? So if you look back, it's been already almost 10 years that the first concept of Industry 4.0 was presented in Germany, right? And and actually, I had the impression that it creates an idea of 100% fully automated factory with robots taking decisions everywhere, and so that creates kind of a myth that Industry 4.0 it's about technology, right? And actually, what we see is and people is realizing that we still see people looking for technology, but what is it really about is business effectiveness, right? So business efficiency on all aspects, right? So go to market quickly and process performance, those kind of issues that should be addressed by the technology at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, and then I like that concept of our vocal world, right? So our the way our world is being nowadays is completely volatile, right? So it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous, right? And now, just 3 months ago, we just had another layer of complexity on that, right? So bringing more volatility in terms of disturbance in demand, right? So and talking about specifically for the manufacturing space, so some of the manufacturers just have uh, just a decrease, drastic decrease on demand. On the other hand, we had some of them not be able to meet all those requests and orders that they were taking. So completely different situation for different manufacturers. And then the uncertainty as well, right? So as it is something completely new, it's hard to predict. It's hard to understand what is going to happen next, right? So we don't have clear view on the near future as well. So the complexity has increased as well because something globally is affecting even small factories or small business, right? And that's a pretty complex environment. So and then in the ambiguity as well, right? So we people are saying, we are going back to the normal soon. So, but it should be a new normal. But this new normal is going to have the same, consuming habits. So we still see an impact, right, for the manufacturing space.
Yeah, definitely. The uncertainty in which we are living today has really become more and more prevalent, and that volatility has increased so much. And because of that, the complexity has exploded now. And that ambiguity we are living in is what we need to really work with and overcome, right? Especially in this COVID-19 environment, this ambiguity and complexity is very much there, and we had to work with that. There's no doubt about it. For that, I think the data, what we have collected and etc., plays a bigger role in this. I agree.
Yeah, and of course, let's pick the most advanced and most Industry 4.0 organization in the world. So they probably they got hit for this situation as well, but for sure they were more prepared to respond quickly for in terms of how to change the business faster, how to understand how is the production nowadays, right? So with the agility and flexibility, we see people more prepared to deal with demand changes and even keep the business alive, right? So we have people trying to keep the business up to speed in some way, and even limit the problems that they may have in the future because of this current situation, right?
Right. Yeah, in that context, as you talked about, in the new business model we need to work with, definitely there are a lot of challenges to overcome, right? Even today, for example, the information in different areas of manufacturing still remains in silos. People are not, departments are not exposing their data to one another, for example, right? Maybe, it is a fear from the people's perspective, maybe, or there may not be any means to share the information as such, right? We have seen that departments are, working in silos, they're not sharing the information. Planning process is very departmentalized as of today, may not have an overall picture of what the enterprise is trying to do, right? Also, the data collected may not be time sensitive. We may be still having the old legacy data, but we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Also, certain areas like infrastructure may not be adequate to make a transition yet. Maybe the cost factor or capital spending might be an issue, or even business functions may not be very clearly understood, right? The enterprise is thinking in one way, but the departments are not in line with what the enterprise wants, right? So these are some of the challenges definitely we need to have to overcome, right? Also, it's hard to address all those issues, but somewhere we need to start, right? It's work to tackle this problem early in this journey.
And they are not challenged because of the current situation, right?
Right.
They are challenges that are there since since before that, and those challenges with the whole Industry 4.0 mentality and package, those challenges are supposed to be resolved by that, right? So part by part, right? So
Correct.
when we take our magnifying glass and just seeing where the exact pain point is, so we can look for outside and see, hey, the situation seems to be better because we just take some attention with some points, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a one size fit all. We have to look at closely, specific things as we go along, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that takes us to the next subject and topic. Actually, it's to I like the idea that the chain is as strong as the weakest link, right? So if you don't have a uniform chain, you can have that unbalance just because one of the rings that you have there, right? So in case of the manufacturing, what we have been seeing nowadays is most of them are reporting lack of visibility, right? Lack of or difficult to see what is really happening, right? Because of these new requirements and new situations. How can I react in those situations, right? And with common questions like which products we produce in which plants, do I have inventory or not, do I have enough raw material to produce, right? Can I deliver that? What about my suppliers, right? So my suppliers may facing the same challenge that I'm facing. So how can I integrate with that and make that in a more efficient way, right? And then I would like to maybe discuss with you how we approach that, right? So how we, in a way, to go over the situation, how we see manufacturing going out that situation easily, right? That brings us to the data-driven approach, right? So it's kind of start taking decisions in tangible and robust data instead of taking decisions just in a fuzzy way, right? So based on the experience or based on the sense that all manufacturers has, right? So and then we see data in a journey as well, right? So you cannot, for example, automate something that you not even measure, right? So and then talking about prediction and prescription, how can I understand what is about to happen if I don't know the past, right? I have to understand the past. I have to have historical data to be able to prepare my system to help me take the next decisions after that, right? So in the future, right? So and then that happens for every single organization. So they have KPIs to follow. They have operations decisions based on those KPIs, right? And then you have the process data to take care. And these three layers, the decision process, decision layer, and data lake, are the most, how can I say, less uniform layers of decisions we have, right? So this is where we see an opportunity to work with. So kind of studying the decision-making process over the data, evaluate the data gaps and data quality, right? Because you have to have the right frequency, you have to have the right quality and the right frequency, and then kind of establish the data lakes, right? And data lake doesn't mean just a single, single location, single database that you have to have all your data there. Data lake in this sense is how my systems or all the enterprise systems are integrated in a way to supply me the right data to take the decisions, right? So sometimes it's a matter of, the pieces are in place, right? And you can deal with that. What do you think, friends?
Yeah, I think it's the approach to take it from the ground level up as well as from the top to bottom, right? It's a middle layer that we need to come together, right? It's not just IT side of the house or the operations technology side of the house. Both have to come together. So it is a hybrid approach to come from the top as well as from the bottom. And we have to make sense out of what we are collecting, right? What type of data we are collecting. Just for the collection's sake, it doesn't help. We have to understand what the data really means to my production process, right? At each step of the way. Yeah, definitely, those two have to come together to, going forward.
Yeah, and I always like to have the vertical or the transversal approach, right? Because usually what we see, customers are concerned about the layers, right? So I need my automation layer established, and then I have my data layer, my MES system
Right.
to take the production, and then my SAP. So if you do that in layers without going, aligning that with your objectives, you may have something in place, but not completely integrated, right?
Instead of that's where the silos gets created, right? We have to overcome that silos barrier now.
Yeah, and so if you work as a transversional approach, you can kind of, for example, I want to optimize my inventory, and that may affect several layers that you have in your organization, right? Since the sensor point of view, up to the SAP, the orders, or the ERP, let's say, the SAP, right? So this is pretty much how we see, right? And then we have been seeing technology apply, and then that's where the technology takes place, right? The technology is applied to bridge or to help bridge that gap between the process data and the operational decisions, right?
Yeah, one point, Leo, you mentioned about automation, right, and the RPA, things like that. RPA, I feel it is just a technological tool to do some repetitive tasks over and over again, right? Which we understand very well how to do it. But the question I think really is the RPA helping us in improving our workflows, right? We have to understand that workflow and improve that workflow so that, better automation is coming up. But we have that concept in our head, we can slap in an RPA tool to do automation. To me, the emphasis is really on the workflow understanding and how to streamline it, how to improve that is the key in this whole journey, right?
Yeah, sure. And
right.
And those difficulties has to deal. You have to deal that in a different way for every single organization, right?
Right.
and that's part of my job, for example, is try to see if say, hey, Mr. Customer, we have that solution that it's fitting in your competitor, for example, but maybe in your environment or in your plant or in your organization, because of the culture, because of the people, the solution is not going to fit as good as you have in your competitor, for example, right? So,
Right.
And it goes back to the complexity on the VUCA world, right? So we face that complexity as well in different manufacturings, right? So as they have technological levels, different levels, as they have cultural levels, decision-making process in terms of how can I make relationship with my suppliers, for example. Those are completely different from one or to the other, right?
Right. So in this data-driven approach, I think, the key is there is a need to change in the mindset of the people who are operating in the production process, right? That's the key, because unless we change our mindset to go forward in this direction, it doesn't help in our improving the efficiency or anything like that. Now, I see in today's production systems are still very well planned. We know how production runs with a starting point, right? We feed them to ERP systems or MES systems, but in our production process today, we are always in a point of saying, okay, we are very deterministic at this point. There is no randomness, right? We know how the production starts and what to make, how much of an inventory to keep and things like that. But, going forward in this volatility, in our area right now, we have to think in terms of the future as, how probably we need to produce a product based on a demand, right? It may be a consumer-based demand. Consumers are telling that I need this or I don't need this. So we have to cater to that, right? That's the paradigm shift we need to have to say, okay, we are going to produce something based on the demand rather than having a specific inventory going and managing it, right? So I think that is where the data sharing comes into place, right? We said, data is there, but it's all in silos, but now we have to make it available and transparent as far as possible, right? That's the key. But, also we have all these legacy systems where data are stored. There is no transformation between those systems easily done, things like that. So we need to adapt to that situation as to say, how do we integrate all these legacy systems we had, protecting our assets, and how the transformation of data has to happen. As software engineers, we know how to export data from one format to the other, but that's not the key. We have to make sure that data is transparent. For example, say a bill of material got changed in our production process. That needs to be transparent and is available to everybody rather than telling somebody, say, okay, bill of material got changed, or you need to make change in the other areas. That's not the way we should be operating. That data transparency has to come well within our organizations of things. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think, and I may imagine what people that are listening to us, what they are thinking now, right? So if you have that complex environment, that you have different systems and you have different process, how to tackle that? How to I know that I want to reach that Industry 4.0 level, right? So completely predictable and completely prescriptable. But how can I do that journey, right? So, and that's bring me to the next topic that I like to share and talk a little bit about with you is the Iron Man suite platform.
That's nice.
Do you like movies, Shrimps? Do you like movies?
Yeah, I have Iron Man movies, and I love it.
Yeah, so I'm telling that because I have watched every single Marvel movie 2 or 3 times. So I'm kind of a Marvel specialist. So but I brought that story because if you look back to the Iron Man story, you can relate that with the message that we can bring, right? So that guy, built, let's say, a business from a primary need, right? That was just escape from a cave, right? And if you see the other side, nowadays he has this suite up platform that does, put armors, weapons, and the suite as necessary. As he walks, he goes bringing things and putting things in a very agile and a very customized way, right? So that point is a very critical point for Industry 4.0 because Industry 4.0 is supposed to bring customized products, highly customized products at the cost of the massive production product, right? So the industry should be ready to, deliver to you, your computer with all the configurations you want to do, and that's your order, right? So your single product, right? And then
definitely, you have to do a lot of experimentation. You have to build some hypothesis, test the hypothesis, because one size doesn't fit all. It's definitely you have to work. You have to experiment from step by step and see what the results. How do we improve on what we have learned before, right? Definitely.
And looking back to Iron Man, so his first suite just broke completely. It completes the objective. He learned a lot. He learned a lot from that, and he started to make things in a very focus point. Like he started with the hand thing, the hand weapon, and then he started to bring new things for that hand, right? So as you said, and you brought a very important point, which is the creativity, right? So when you think about innovation, innovation is that is the creativity applied to generate business results, right? So you can be creative at the kitchen, you can be creative at the school, but when it is innovation in the industry is where the creativity is being applied to really bring some benefit at the end of the day, right? So increase production or reduce costs and those kind of things, right?
Yeah, definitely. We should not be afraid, to experiment, fail, learn on that and build upon it. It's not like, oh, I failed, I cannot proceed further, right? Based on your failure, success comes, right? So definitely experimenting and improving upon is the key. Innovation is the key.
How many times you listen that phrase? I have tried that before. It doesn't work. Let's
right.
Right. So there is no innovation without experimentation. And if you see, we have just a huge wave of experimentation right now. We are passing through that, right? Because people are using creativity at the top, right? It's being largely used in the situation we are right now, right? So people are trying to keep business running with this new situation we have, right? How can I say? It's opening, and I hope that opening people's mind to at the same time they have to reach the targets for production and quality and so all deliveries. It has to have a similar effort to transform the way they do things nowadays, right? So I don't think we are going to resolve all the problems in the industry right now, but I think that shift on the mindset should come, right? Don't you agree?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I like the slide you have projected there, creativity. That's the new norm now, right? Working home and, being virtual and making sure that production processes shall continue to run. Yeah, I like the slide here.
Yeah, and more or less like in the past, 20, 30 years ago, we used to have those, technical specs to make proposals, right? So that doesn't happen anymore. So we don't receive RFPs with a very technical detail that you have to respond. So now our approach is different, right? So we have to understand the situation, build the digital map. And when you see a digital roadmap, 20 years ago, you establish a multi-year plan, right? So 5 years plan, and you follow that plan strictly. Nowadays,
Right.
the map is completely dynamic. It changes every day. It's like changing the wings of the flying
Right.
plane, right? It's
Right.
like that. So from our side, I think we are trying to transform ourselves as well. We are trying to change the products and services we work, and I hope we can have some doors over the walls for us to work some collaboration in that manner with the industry, right? So like stress testing our nearshore sources, having, I just did a virtual design thinking section. It was great. Everybody in your home, and it worked like a presential position, right? So leveraging the remote capabilities for the industry, right? So if you see nowadays, manufacturing automation layer is very closed. Of course, it has a concern about cybersecurity and some confidentiality, but we have to work in that because plant has to take all the benefits that the external world have, right? Like AI benefits could be some of them. Don't you agree?
Right. Yeah, definitely. The fundamentals are still there. Is the same concept that we have to build together all the pieces in a cohesive way. Definitely the virtual design thinking plays a bigger role in moving forward, definitely.
Yeah. And then what about virtual field support, right? So we have to think about it, where the real presence is really necessary, right? So we can stress that and work on more solutions as a service. I have a dream to have all service for automation like Amazon or Netflix business, right? So the customer entrance, subscribe, and just plug and play, right? And start using that. So that's something really to work with. And
hope that will be industry 6.0, right? we are still getting into 5.0, but yeah, definitely that thought process,
Yeah, but we have to think about it, right? So
yeah, definitely. Right.
You have to kind of target that objective and walk through that line, right? And and I hope one of the main most important things that we have in this case is really work in the trust and trust between partners, right? So not meaning supplier and customer and consumer, but kind of making that in a closer way with less walls, so we can grow in a more, how can I say, in a more healthy way, right? What do you think?
Yeah, the trust and the teamwork, with the failure leading to success is the key in the digital transformation and going forward with data backing up, for sure. Yeah, I really agree on that.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so that was good conversation, friends. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like to share, and that's what we have. So Amy, so if you have any questions, we could try to elaborate that and respond as we can.
Yes, thank you, Leo and Shrams. One of the questions is, if I can't do all of the steps right now, where is the best place to start?
So I don't know, Shrams, you want to take that? But
I would say that the best place to start is, not going full detail into what this production stuff is. at least if you have an understanding of what the data is, try to understand and see, what is the meaning that is coming out of that data to integrate, right? Unless you understand what is the actual information or the influence that this data is providing us, then we'll not be able to do any integration or improve the automation process. So we have to understand what it really means. So even if you have collected that data over 10 years, 15 years, and if you don't have an understanding of what that means, it's difficult. So your emphasis is to physically understand what that means. I would start in understanding that data means. For example, if temperature, you're taking that data, and if you don't understand the influence of that temperature on your process, then it has no meaning to automate, right? So I would like to understand there. So starting point should be understanding the data.
Yeah, so starting where this new approach could impact your business, right? So where that pain point is, right? Yeah, you're right. Any other questions, Amy?
Yes. How can you see the remote capabilities being applied in the manufacturing environment?
So I see a lot of potential. Of course, again, as we are changing wings for a flying plane, right? But I still see, as I said, I just did, design thinking sections in a virtual environment. We are now, supporting customer remotely. So some of the things they can be done for sure remotely. It's just a matter of for each customer to sit down and understand which levels and which layers we can take remotely with which kind of local support we should have.
One more question. How might we learn from COVID-19 moment and continue to innovate?
I really believe, and I'll be short just to take a chance to respond that as well. But I really believe that some of the difficulties that we have in the past is because manufacturing is still very conservative, right? And and I'm talking about supply chain, the way we do projects, right? Because the new wave, you have to consider that projects have failures. So failures are part of the process in order to go out of that. So changing the business models is one of the critical points for me to think that. And I think we are learning that over this process because things just, started to work in a different way for many customers. What do you think, Trent?
Yeah, definitely, the design thinking will help, right? And in this COVID-19, you have to think about how to use artificial intelligence technologies, for example, based on your data, how AI can help you out, how machine learning can help you out in understanding, predicting, and prescriptive things, right? So there are classic models that have been built, maybe, based on your data and your data needs. You may have to come up with new algorithms to figure out how we can improve that efficiency, right? So that will be the key as well.
Perfect. And one more question just popped in. How was the journey of predictive model implementations? How did you overcome the adoption pushbacks?
There are many ways to respond that, right? But the common one is if you are trying to predict something, you have to have some track records, right? So it has to have a footprint behind that thing that you are trying to predict. For us to be able to model that in a way we can predict, like the temperature that Franz just said, right? So we have to understand the influences that the temperature has in your process, so we can model that. And no matter what kind of technology we're talking about, so we can model that, and then the model can really predict and hopefully take some actions after the prediction. So this is the most important, right? So for example, I see the temperature raising very quickly. I just turn down the gas so I can control the temperature. In a way, I keep my process under control, right? So I'm just giving a simple example, but it can be applied to a more complex environment with multivariable problem. So that's the way we really tackle that. And it comes to the creativity and design thinking and the openness to try new things that we were discussing before, right? So people has to be open to go over that journey, so we can build that prediction.
Yeah, also, in terms of in the absence of the historic data, right? You mentioned about the historic data helps you to do the new things, but in the absence of historic data as well, the domain expertise is the key, right? Somebody who has that understanding of that process helps to build the data as well. It's not necessary that only the historic data will help you in doing the predictiveness, right? It's the domain expertise. So you can build and start building the new data set that you want from that your experience as well. So somebody who has understanding of that really helps. So it complements each other, the historic data as well as the domain expertise to take it further. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. That was the last of the questions. Thank you again, everyone, for attending our webinar. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we will be sending out the recording and the key takeaways from the session. Again, have a great rest of your week, and thank you again.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Leo. Had a good conversation.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.